Welcome back to Ayaz. In this video, you will learn how to create autocomplete search suggestions by using pure JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So this is the demo that you will build in this video. So you can see this is a simple input type search, and you can, if you click on it, it shows the all of the options, and if you type something, then it would filter it out for you. And you can click on it, it will show that selected value in the input. So let's begin. Let's create a new file, index.html. We're going to add some basic commission code. Next, I will create an input. Now I'm going to preview in the browser. So this is what we have for. So next, I'm going to wrap it in a container. I will add an ID. I would call it autocomplete container. You can name it anything you want. So uh, after that, we need another box that would be a drop down. So if user clicks on this input, then that drop down should be appeared below that input. So now let's create that box first. I would call it drop down, or you can name it whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to add some styles on it. So the width should be equal to the width of the parent. So actually, I want to make the width of this drop down equal to the width of the input. So, and the height should be 400 pixel or whatever you feel is better. So here you can see that it is taking full width, full screen width instead of the width of the input. So for that, I'm going to display inline block to the parent. Now the parent is not taking the full width. That's why now child is taking the width of the parent. And the parent width is the width equal to the content of the element. So and the height is it looks like the height is too much, so I'm going to decrease the height. I think it is better now. Next, I want to remove the border radius from the top. Border radius 0. Top left radius should also be 0. and there should not be border on the top. Border top 0 pixels. All right. So instead of uh, okay, I would increase the width of the input with 60%. Oh, okay. Yeah. And also, I want to increase the width of the input. The input should be 100% of the parent. Okay, now it is taking 100% of the parent. So I'm going to inspect it. So it looks like it is taking more space than the parent. Let me try something here. Okay. If you add box sizing, border box, then it will never go beyond the parent width. The reason is that there was a padding inside the input, and when I used box sizing border box, uh, it did not uh, take the extra space width. It used its internal space to cover that padding. So let's add it box sizing border box. I want to style the input with further height 40 pixels and padding 10 pixels. Okay, and border should be 1 pixel solid. Okay, and I want to bring this entire component in the middle. So I want to align it in center. For that, I would say margin auto. Um, I would add some margin top as well. And I don't like this outline, so I can remove it by typing outline none. Okay, great. Now you see this div is also taking more width than the parent. So let's try to add border box sizing border box to this as well. Yeah. So this is perfect now. So okay. So next thing is that I want to by default this drop down should be hidden and it should be visible only if user clicks on this input. Now I would register a, a click event. For that, let's add a script tag at the bottom and add document dot add event listener dot uh, and call that function. I would pass the name of the event. I want to register the click event. Actually, the click event should be added on the input. So instead of that, I would say document dot query selector input. So in this selector, there is an input where I want to listen for an event. So let's test it first to make sure if this event is working fine. So I'm clicking on that and I can see that my function is being called. That's mean the click event is working fine. Now I can write my own logic in this function. So my logic is that I want to show the drop down. So instead of writing the logic inside this function, I am going to create a new function for showing the drop down, and then I would call that function in within this function. So function show drop down, and whenever user clicks on this input, I want to show that drop down, and I will just call it show drop down. That will do its job. So to show a drop down, I need to get that drop down element. Let drop down element is equal to document dot query selector. So this is the drop down element. I want to add a class on it, and the class name would be the active. So to add a class, it is very easy. For that, just type class list, add, and pass the name of the class that you want to add. So with this approach, it would add the class active. Right now, it would do nothing. The dropdown is still not showing. To show the dropdown, I just need to add a style on dropdown. I would say dropdown dot active class should be display block. So whenever this dropdown gets the active class on it, we would display it. And you can see it is working. So it is partially working. It shows the dropdown, but it does not hide the dropdown. Sorry. So I mean is that if user clicks outside of the dropdown or input, this dropdown should be hidden. So it is very easy, I guess. So now as I want to hide it, I would add another event, document dot add event listener, click, and in this function, I want to hide the dropdown. So I would just call that function. I'm going to create that function now. Function hide dropdown, and this chart. Oh, so not this. It is just so. I got the dropdown element. Now I want to hide it. For to hide it, I just need to remove the active class from it. Dot class list dot remove active. So this is very easy syntax. You just need get the list of the classes, and this provides you a function dot remove to just remove the class from it very easily. And let's see if that works. Okay, I'm clicking now. It stopped working like before. It was working perfectly before adding this code, but now it is not working. So as soon as I remove this code, it is working fine. So let's try to understand what is happening and why it is not working after adding this event listener. The issue is that when you click on that, our code adds a class active on it that shows the drop down, but immediately uh, another click event is triggered that is on document. So document detects a click on it that somebody clicks on. So when I click on the input, document detects that somebody click on the document. So it immediately tells us to hide that drop down. So drop down gets hidden immediately. So we don't see any difference. So because it happens in very fast time that it we don't notice that reflection. So that's mean if we have to improve this hide drop down function. So for example, we have to make some such changes. If user clicks on input, then we should not consider this click on document event. So in simple words, uh, if I click on input, then the document should not detect that event, click event. Document should detect the click event only if user clicks outside of the input or drop down. But if user clicks inside input or drop down, then document should ignore that click event. To make that possible, I would go to the click event of the input. I would capture the event, and in the event, I have a function stop propagation. So it does a very great job that it does not tell the parent that somebody clicked on this element. So it does not travel the event to the parent. So it detects this input itself detects the event, but it will not pass that event to the parent. So if it does not pass that event to the parent, then parent does not know that somebody clicked on this input. So if parent document does not know that somebody clicks on that input, then it will not trigger this click event. And if this click event is not triggered, then it would not hide the dropdown. So let's test it and see if that works. So it is showing I clicked outside and dropdown is hidden. And now I am going to click inside the dropdown to see if it gets hidden. Yeah, it is being hidden. I don't want to hide the dropdown if user clicks inside the dropdown. For that, uh, I can do the same thing. For example, I can register another event on the dropdown, and I just have to call the event.stop propagation. That would stop passing the event to the parent. So let's see, yeah, it is working. And if you click outside, it is hiding. So our core feature for the dropdown is working perfect. Now we just need to add some menu or options in the dropdown to make it look good. For that, I'm just going to add some divs in it. Option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's design it to make it look good. Drop down option, height 30 pixels, padding left 10 pixels, border bottom 1 pixel, solid, and the color should be gray for the border of the option, and it should be aligned vertically in middle. For that, I would say display flex, align item center. All right. And the font size should be a bit smaller, maybe. Uh, I think that's fine. And another thing that I notice is that the border bottom of the last option should not be visible because it looks like there are double borders. So I'm going to remove the border for the last option for that. drop down option last child and border 0 pixels. All right. Now, another thing is that I don't want to give a fixed height to the drop down. I mean, it is taking 200 pixel. I can say that minimum height can be 50 pixel, but it can be more than that. And maximum height should be 200 pixel. And if there is a content more than that height, we can add a scroll. For that, I would add overflow auto. Okay, now I need some nice hover effect. For that, drop down option over background color CC cursor pointer. It is too dark. I am going to make it lighter. I think it's better. So next thing I want to do is that if user clicks on any option, then that option should be added in the input text. The value should be equal to the option that we clicked on. So for that, we need to uh, register another event. But before, yeah, let's do that first. So we need to add another click event on the every option. So to add register an event on every option, we have to create a loop on the array of the elements. To get the array of all options element, we would type document dot query selector. This time I'm going to use all. That would give me an array of list of all of the option elements. But that I would use the same kind of selector that I have here. And this function has this response has a for each function in it. So I'm going to add an event on every option. In the for each, every iteration, I'm getting an option DOM element. And this time I would say what add event listener, click. So every time if user clicks on any option, we should immediately hide the drop down. So that is the first task. So to hide the dropdown, we already have a function. I am going to call that. And next, I want to get the content of that option and put it into the input element. For that, let selected value is equal to e dot target dot inner HTML and document dot query selector dot this input. And now I'm going to add a value should be equal to the selected value. Let's see if that works. Yes, it is working perfectly. Yes, it is working. Next thing that we need to do is that this dropdown should be searchable. For example, if user types something, then it should show only those options that matches the text that you have typed in the input. But right now it is not working. To make it searchable, right now we have hard coded all of the options. So to make it searchable, we have to load all of these options through the JavaScript. So these options should be saved in an array. JavaScript array. For that, let's create a function, a variable. Options is equal to value option one and label option. Right now, I have same content in value and label, but you can add different because normally in the value we add IDs of the data items, and in the label we show something visual thing. So I'm going to add some multiple options. Now I will remove all of these options, and I can create another function that would say function load options, and I would immediately call that function load options. And in this function, I would get this drop-down element, and then I would generate DOM elements for the options and insert them into this drop-down. For that, first let's get the drop-down element. This is the code to get the drop-down element. Let drop-down element is equal to this. And next, I need to create a loop on the options array. Options dot for each option. Let option element is equal to document dot create element, and here I need to specify that which kind of element I need to create. I need to create a div type of element. Next, I need to add a class on every option element. That would be option. So next I need to add the content into that option. So for that, I would say option element dot inner HTML is equal to option dot label. And so with this, our virtual DOM element has been created, but it is not visible in the DOM yet because we did not append it in the DOM yet. So we need to inject it. To inject in the DOM, we simply do this thing. Wherever you want to inject it, just use that element reference and type append child. That would insert that element in the end of that element. Option element. So let's see if it is loading the options or not. Yes, it is loading the option. So to make sure if it is working, I will comment this out to see if it stops working. Yeah, right now it is not loading anything, and when you call this function, and it will load all of the options. Next, I need to change the list if user types. So whenever user types, we want to save a search keyword in a variable. So I'm going to define a variable. Let search keyword is equal to empty string. So I want to register another event on the input that would be on key up. On key up, I should call a function search this dot value, and let's define the search function value alert. Well, let's see if we are getting the correct value on key up. Yes, we are getting the value on every keyword. So now we can update the search keyword variable. Next, after we get the search keyword, we need to reload the options based on the search keyword. Right now, we did not update the logic of the load option, so I will do it next. So for now, I'm going to call the load options immediately if user tries to search. And here, whenever we load options, we should remove all of the existing options immediately and then load them again. So I would say dropdown element dot inner HTML should be empty. So it would remove all of the options from it if there are any options already. And then I can filter out this options array to get to have only those options which matches the search criteria. So for that, I would say that options filter options is equal to. So if option search keyword is equal to empty, then we should just return the original options. Otherwise, we should filter the options. Options dot filter, and here we need to pass a function. And in this parameter, I am getting every option. So I would say option if option dot label dot includes a search keyword in it, then return those filters. So it would consider only those options that matches the search keyword. So let's see if that works. Something is wrong. I typed the wrong spelling. So, oh no, we're still not working. Something is wrong. Search keyword value. Uh, so now we should use only this variable, filtered options instead of the options. Now it should work fine. Uh, so it is working fine. But when I type OP, it does not show anything. It should show all of the options because every option has the OP in it. It is not showing them because it is comparing with the case sensitivity. So that means if I type small o p, it would not work. It is not working. But if I type capital OP, then it would work. So it should not care for the case sensitivity. It should just match it. For that, I would convert all both of these words, label and search keyword, into the lowercase. For that, type to lowercase and this. So now it should work fine. Yes, it is working. Uh, the dropdown should be equal to the height of the content. So I think I should remove the minimum height of the dropdown. All right. So it is working perfectly fine. But another issue that I just found is that as now we have made this options loading thing dynamic, now our option click event is not working. The reason is that here, if you look at that event, uh, we are so we are loading the options, but it takes some milliseconds to load the options into the document, into the DOM. But immediately before loading of the options process is completed, we are immediately trying to register an event on every options. But at this stage, the option was not created, the option was not inserted in the DOM. As option was not inserted into the DOM, that's why it could not iterate over that loop. It got an empty array because those options were not injected yet in the DOM. That's why it could not add any click event on that. So that's mean instead of adding event listener this way, we don't know when option would be injected. So for that, we should create that event click event at the time of the creation of the element, option element. So where the option element is being created, the option element is being created here. Here we created the option element. So if we add event listener right here, then it would work because at this stage the element does exist definitely. So for that, I'm going to pick uh, this part and I would remove this section. We don't need it anymore. So here I have the option element. I can use, sorry, that element here. So now at this stage, this option element does exist. So we are immediately adding the click event on it, and this would work perfectly fine like before. So you can see it is working. So, all right, I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video. I hope this would be helpful for you. So if you really liked my video, then please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to see all of the notifications in your email. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.